Today's reading is from Luke chapter 4, verses 18 and 19. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. This is the word of the Lord.
Good morning. Cap Sunday looks very different this year to the previous times I've spoken to you. There'll be no throwing rubbish around today or giving out bits of paper or acorns this year. This year, I wanted to show you that CAP isn't just me. CAP, or Christians Against Poverty, has its full name, but I'll be referring to it as CAP today. It's very much a God-led team effort stretching out to help those in the most desperate need in our community. This year has been very different for each one of us. We seem to be living in a strange parallel universe. I said to Andy, my husband, I wouldn't be surprised if a TARDIS materialised in my garden and Doctor Who jumped out. However, I do know that's not going to happen. It can seem like the clock has stopped at 10 to midnight in the dark dead of night, and we have no idea when morning will come. I want to talk to you about hope in that darkness. Hope is one of the rallying cries of this church. Experience hope. We have a hope in the darkness, and this is not something we want to keep to ourselves. This pandemic is no surprise to God. I want to remind us what God has done in the past. I also like to talk about what he's doing today through ordinary people and what he promises for the future. Two members of our congregation are going to talk about how they're spreading hope through CAP in our community. And a little later, I will also show you an amazing story about a lady who's called Sharon, who shows us what it's like to have eternal hope flooding into an extremely dark situation. But let's first hear from the two members of our congregation who've known the joy of serving God through CAP. The first one is Chris Gray, who's no relative of mine, and the second one is Veronica. Good morning, Chris. You've been involved with CAP for a while now. Can you just tell us briefly how you first got involved with CAP?
Well, I guess I first heard about CAP on CAP Sunday probably 4 years ago in St John's when you spoke about the work of CAP. And I think it just struck me as an organisation that was really trying to help people at their point of need. I'm very much a believer of, give a man a fish and you feed him for the day, but teach him to fish, then you can actually solve their problems for life. And it really felt like CAP was trying to get behind the problems of people's financial issues and sort them out, and that just seemed to be like a wonderful mission to take on. So I kind of wanted to get involved. So I actually got involved by getting invited to a Befrienders coffee morning, or whatever you would call it, which was just an information sharing session where we talked about some of the work of CAP, and I felt it was something I could take on board and play a role in, so I was happy to sign up.
The Befriender role is a little bit different in lockdown at the moment, so you aren't able to do quite so much of the hands-on part of it. So tell me a bit briefly what the Befriender role involves at the moment.
Well, so I guess my involvement is being there in a way just as part of the safeguarding process to make sure that we operate appropriately, and so meeting with the client. But I see it as kind of somebody who's a little bit alongside them as an individual. They're kind of interacting through the CAP professional, yourself, for example, to get through the process that CAP takes people through to sort out their debts and to get them back on a good track. And so my role, I feel, is not as an expert by any means. Although I have financial background, that's not why I'm there. I think it's there just to be a human being who's shown concern and care for the individual, and build up some sort of relationship as people work their debts out. I'm thinking one particular client where, you know, he'd been through debt problems in the past, and the help he'd had from the debt companies was just to burden him with longer payments and therefore more debt, and wasn't getting to the root cause of his problems. Whereas CAP really embraces the client and shows them how to get out of debt, and therefore transforms their lives. And that's just such wonderful work. And I just want to be there to encourage them as they go on down that journey.
You've been involved with Christine Simmons running a Kickstart course, which is originally developed by CAP. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Kickstart, I think, again, is a great way. CAP is not just doing sort of specific help with individuals, but helping to drive some messages of encouragement and hope to people, and give them the tools and ideas how to get out some of their problems. Specifically, we ran one course back in the autumn, and we're going to run now again starting this next week, really helping them focus on how to get a job, but also thinking through their skills and talents, and really kind of asserting for people their self-worth and how, as from a Christian point of view, how God sees people and how we all have something to give, and then translate that into a process which eventually can take them through writing a CV, how to go about getting an interview and so on, really encouraging people to get out of some of their current situation which may be holding them back. And then some financial skills, so budgeting and how to handle money better type skills, to again just get people to move forward in life and not be sort of stuck in some dire situations that I'm sure a lot of clients come to CAP with. So I just think it's a great course to step back. It's only a few folk, it's on Zoom, and it's very easy to access, and give a chance for people to focus on some of these matters.
So how do people register for that course?
So as I say, we're starting on Thursday, and we're going to do it by Zoom, so you need a Zoom link. So if you can register by Tuesday, send an email to suegray@capuk.org and give your details, and then you'll get the link, as I say, so that you can then join it on Thursday at 7:30, and look forward to seeing people then.
And another thing that you've been involved in over this last year is the Hardship Fund. So can you tell us a little bit about the Hardship Fund?
Yeah, so I think the Hardship Fund is one of those real positive things that have come out of the whole COVID situation. We were actually approached by members of the congregation who were prompting us that they wanted to help those who were less fortunate and didn't know quite how to do that. So we established this process where people can donate, and some of the members of the congregation have donated incredibly generously, some frequently, some on a one-off basis. And so we've been able to build up some financial resources, which we can then go and bless the community through grants, which have ranged from small £20 type help with the fuel vouchers where they've not got heating or lighting, right to more important things with their lives, and also help support other organizations like the Hope and Depression course, and give out, real sort of messages of hope and encouragement, as well as practical help. And I think it's just been a great way of meeting the needs of the community. I just did a calculation, and I think we've actually touched individuals or groups of individuals, something like 34 different people and groups that have been impacted by these grants. And I just think that's a great way that we can show God's love to the community. It's all about, love the community. And I think there's all sorts of blessings going on through that, which is really great. And, obviously we're grateful for the encouragement we as the church get by people wanting to support that through their financial support. But equally, if there's people, anyone in the congregation knows who need that help, there is a source of funds to do so. So please speak up. I suggest contacting Carol Peters, Leslie Pocock, or yourself as kind of first points of contact. And then we'll assess the needs and try and help as quickly and simply as possible to just sort things out. Because sometimes I think people just need a little bit of encouragement. And that's something we can do through the Hardship Fund.
If somebody wanted to give some money towards the Hardship Fund, how would they do that?
So you can actually send money direct to the church's bank account, details on the website, or now we have these wonderful online giving tools, which are just great ways of simply get your credit card out and you can put the numbers in and the payment goes through sort of instantly, which is great. So a couple of ways like that, and obviously to contact the church office if you need bank details, and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you so much for all your hard work and for what you do with Food Bank as well. You're a very busy man, even though we're in lockdown. So thank you, and God bless you for all you're doing. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So glad to talk about this.
Good morning, Veronica. You joined the CAP team as a deck coach working alongside me recently, and can you tell us what led you into this new venture?
Quite simply, I was asked. I'd found out a bit about CAP probably about 10 years ago now, and was really excited that there was an organisation run by Christians looking to help people who'd got into financial difficulties, and that was also helping people to budget and look at improving their prospects of getting work and starting anew. And it was just an exciting organisation. At that time, it wasn't appropriate for me to be doing anything, but it had been on the back of my mind. And then really very shortly after I arrived at St. John's, I think it was Esther suggested that as you wanted an extra helper, perhaps you should ask me, without knowing that we had had that communication before. And I guess that, to my mind, it just shows how important it is to ask people, would you like to come to Alpha? Would you like to go on the Hope in Depression course? Would you like to talk to someone about your prayer needs? If people aren't asked, they're not going to say yes.
So this has all started during lockdown. How's that affected the way CAP works?
Well, the pandemic has changed a lot of things in lots of different ways. I was concerned about technology and how I'd get on with that when I first applied to CAP, and I was reassured that before I left Bradford, I would be comfortable with all that I had to do on my laptop. Being positive about it, the fact that I have had to be doing the things remotely, led me to understand how difficult it can be to get the help that they need, and how if the first couple of attempts don't get anywhere, it can be very discouraging and people give up easily. And I'm not used to being thwarted, and if I found it difficult, people who are used to having problems would find it a lot more difficult. So I think that actually God was very gracious in helping me understand what life was like without many of the advantages that I normally enjoy. CAP's changed loads of different things, from having a busy headquarters with all the staff attending, to having a lot more of their staff in Bradford working from home. Everything is now done on the phone with very, very limited contact. And that can be difficult. What it does mean, though, is that our clients don't have the befrienders meeting up with them. Having someone that is there as a friend to encourage you to make that phone call, send that email off, find the paperwork or whatever, it is more tricky for our clients who are obviously struggling before they meet us, and having someone that is there to hold their hand has been obviously very valuable.
Thank you, Chris and Veronica, for sharing with us what God's been doing in the dark times and how hope is being spread. Jesus is all about hope, especially for those on the margins of society. In the passage that Joyce read a few minutes ago, Jesus said right at the beginning of this ministry, quoting from the book of Isaiah, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." Jesus had just come out of the desert where he had fasted and been tempted for 40 days. In the passage we read, we can hear the message oozing out. Good news, freedom, recovery, release, favour, hope. Jesus sets out his manifesto right at the beginning of his ministry. This is what we see him doing throughout the Gospels. It's what he called his followers to do and still does. It's what he calls you and I to do on this earth, to be hope and light in a dark world. 200 years after Jesus read these words, the early church experienced their own pandemic. The plague of Cyprian ravaged the Roman Empire. People, just like today, lacked basic provisions. They were sick, they were scared, and many died. It was a very dark time. The early church had a choice. They could turn inward and look after themselves, or they could do what Jesus did and be hope and light to their communities. They chose the latter, and it's thought to be one of the reasons Christianity spread through the globe. They cared, they ministered to the sick, they gave sacrificially of their time and money. They reached out and connected with their community. We have seen how many of you have done this. You've stepped beyond your comfort zones and done things in new ways, and we applaud you. You've homeschooled, shopped, banked online for others as well as yourselves. You've presented Bible studies and courses over Zoom on your computers. You've introduced and helped people engage with online services. You've used Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube to pass on God's message of hope to our community. You've prayed for and with people. You've knitted, sewn, baked, cooked meals. You've delivered Christmas hampers, food parcels, Christmas dinners, chocolate, care packages and prescriptions. You've walked together, though apart, with each other, talked over the phone with those who are missing human contact. Just like in the early church, where Christians noticed the poorest, the world noticed the church and their reputation, and the word of God spread. In this time where more people are engaging digitally and exploring Christianity more than ever before, the world is noticing us noticing those in need. I want to show you a testimony of somebody called Sharon, who has experienced this firsthand. It's just one of the many examples I could show you of God revealing himself in power in a way in the midst of the darkness.
Back in the past, when I was all on my own, I thought that there was never any hope. and it was always dark. I never thought like God would ever be able to use someone like me. Even though like things that's happened to me, it still felt like God had his hand on me through the situations that I've been in. So to me, that's always been my dark side of my life. It's, yeah, sometimes it catches up with me, but now it seems like now I'm living in a brighter, more bigger, more colourful life. So to me it is like night and day.
My ex-partner wouldn't let me have any money, so that's the reason why I had to take out loans, and he was taking out loans in my name as well, so yeah, it was all down to me. That's how I started to get myself in trouble. It was because I had 7 kids. That's one of the reasons back then why I couldn't do work, because I was either pregnant or they was all still little and I couldn't work, and I felt I was stupid anyway, because he used to tell me I was stupid, I was fat, I was ugly. And he used to manipulate me like that, so I was underneath his control until I used to run away for a little while, go into a hostel. And then he used to turn up outside the hostels, and the hostels couldn't have the other women in there, frightened, and I had to go back to him. I had nowhere to go with the 7 kids, so. And then that's when I started to get like private place to live in. And then, of course, as soon as I got that, that's when the letters started coming. Letitia actually answered the door to the bailiffs, and they come into the house. I hid in the bedroom, on the bedroom floor, curled up in the corner, while they was actually taking my stuff out the house. So hard for me to actually see that happen, and they were saying, "Mummy, help us. These men are taking our stuff." I was saying to them, "You can take the washing machine, you can take that, but just can you leave the kids' stuff alone?" They wouldn't. Sorry. I hate going back there. I didn't want to live no more. How am I going to get out of this situation? And then I met this lovely lady called Esther. She was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I started telling her bits about my story of my life and stuff like that. And she said, "Oh, I can help you. This come through today." She goes, "I'm meant to help with your debts, and there's not a cost. It's done by a charity." I was like, "What?" I was like, "No, that can't be true." So she goes, "Right, I'm going to put your name forward." But it seemed like it just happened just like that. It happened in weeks. I was like, wow. And I had my first appointment, and Catherine, when she come in, she could see there was no lights in the sitting room, the curtains was closed. I had 3 bags of the Shop for Life bags and big bags. I had 3 of them, full of letters that's not even been opened. And yeah, and Carol and Catherine said, "Don't worry, we'll sort through." And then just before they was leaving, they said, "Can we pray with you?" I've never prayed before in my life, never. And the warmth that come off of them two when they was praying for me was unbelievable. The only thing I could do was curl up and cry, because I just felt like, wow, what has just happened to me? I just felt so warm, and I felt like how much they actually cared for me. They gave me all the options, they gave me everything, every inch of the way. They was just in contact with me. Catherine was in contact with me, telling me what was going on, everything. I was constantly with her, like she didn't leave me. She didn't leave my side, or did Carol. I've been debt-free now for about just over 6 years, and them 6 years has been the best, I've got to say, the best time of my life, because I've got family, I've got friends, I've got all sorts of stuff now, and I've actually got a life. I'm walking my life with God, and yeah, it's amazing.
It always takes my breath away when I watch that. But I see that so often, snippets of that when I see clients. If you need help, if you're feeling lost and trapped, if you're struggling, there is hope. Please ask. If God is stirring up something in your heart where he wants you to be more involved and take that extra step to help practically, please speak to us. Most importantly, God is in control, and nothing that is happening now is a surprise to him. Reach out to him and let him give you his hope and his peace.